Oh yeah, some very juicy Total War Warhammer 3 news just dropped in the form of a roundtable not a few moments ago, and there are implications. The kind that would turn the golden god Dennis Reynolds to a new form of worship, consecrated in blood. You know, because of the implication. Creative Assembly just straight up confirmed legit end times content, which answers some still lingering questions and debates about what exactly their Warhammer license entails, and what they're allowed to cover with this trilogy, and we have more specific detail now on coming race reworks, new start positions for old lords, and campaign mechanics for the 3 new legendary lords coming in the Khorne, Greenskins, Ogre Kingdoms DLC sometime in November or early December. Again, no confirmed date on that yet, but it will be sometime near the end of the year. Number 1, the devs are reaffirming the fact that they have a lot still planned for this trilogy, and oftentimes curveballs like Gorbad Ironclaw will get thrown into the mix instead of more obvious choices because they know that other lords are coming down the line in the next few lord packs. If you're a fan of strange women lying in ponds distributing swords and moistened bin slapping scimitars as a system of government, rejoice, a Bretonnia rework is confirmed and explicitly mentioned, likely of a similar scope and scale to the dwarfs and the deeps in 5.2. The Green Knight and feature fixes will be at the top of the agenda there. Now, I would not be so sure that closes the door on a DLC for Bretonnia either, as the Deeps did come fairly soon after Thrones of Decay in a separate update. While I do love Bretonnia, their aesthetic, and their playstyle, running over an enemy faction with all cav and elite armored knights is just incredibly badass. They are not anywhere near the top of my list when it comes to paid content at this point in time. A DLC with Lost Sons of Bretonnia, Haramalts, Truffle Hounds, Longbows, Stakes, and Bohemond Beastslayer really does not move the needle much for me at all, being completely honest there. I totally get why people want it, and I can respect it, but unless CA and Games Workshop go back to the drawing board and add something truly new and fresh to spice things up a bit there, it's like really far down the list of my possible paid content. But hey, a free rework is awesome. I am not going to complain about that at all. I think that is exactly what Bretonnia needs. Hit that in between updates, and then in the actual Lord packs, do it for factions that are going to benefit more from new content. Alongside that, another Kislev update is confirmed with a rebalance and addition of a new suite of ancillaries, and the reintroduction of the Chaos Invasion, which could have a big-time impact on the endgame for Immortal Empires, with all these greater demons and Everchosen stomping around. Glad it's taken CA a while to get around to doing this, because if they're gonna do the Chaos Invasion, they gotta do it justice and make sure they nail the implementation, because a lot of the current endgame scenarios are limp dick and floundering. AI just doesn't know what to do with all that power, and if you want a true end times experience without all the end times content, then a Chaos Invasion is a perfect way to do it. You just gotta make sure that all the big names are there and they are all champing at the bit. Well, let's get into the DLC. Still no official working title yet. I still think Rivers of Blood is a great name for it, but it was brought to my attention the last time I brought that up, that was an infamous, politically charged speech in the UK back in the day, I think in the 80s. So there is a 0 chance they will want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So I'm all ears for suggestions on what else it could be. I thought that name was very fitting. It fit the naming convention very well, and theme to a T. Shadows of Change, Thrones of Decay, Rivers of Blood. But yeah, it ain't happening, so let's get some pimpin' ideas in the chat. Let me know what y'all think about that one. Now, as y'all know, Uzul Skulltaker, headsman of Khorne, not to be confused with the demon Uzul residing in Archaon, Slayer of Kingsword, those are 2 separate demonic entities, will be the Blood God's chosen champion come the end of the year. And he will probably be a straightforward campaign that revolves around hunting down enemy lords and champions, defeating them, claiming a portion of their strength, and imbuing his skull cloak with their essence. Those are confirmed mechanics, leading to an exponential snowball type of playstyle that will probably exacerbate the core issues that all strategy games face, not just Total War, the problem of the end game, when you just become way too strong for the AI to reasonably resist you, and it's a serious snowball from there. Again, character based on momentum and snowballing through battles, who gets stronger, way stronger, every time he kills a powerful lord. Definitely gonna be a dangerous daddy, and his model certainly reflects that. He's looking intimidating, and all I can say about that is would. Next question. A new generic lord is coming as well, though the devs neglected to say what it would be. My guess is a blood speaker of some variety, a priest that channels magic that isn't magic, but Azul will be joined by 2 new legendary heroes, not just one. So, Scylla Ingfengrim is going to be in the game. He's the first confirmation. Second one, a lot more crazy, Skarr Bloodwrath is coming. Now, Scylla we had already predicted, as Arbol the Undefeated is almost certainly the free LC Lord coming in that update that left Scylla as the hero. He's a red rage gorilla that makes average chaos spawn look like beanie babies. Gigantic, freakish, all-powerful. He is going to beat the brakes off blocks of infantry and enemy monsters alike. Awesome to see his concepts and confirmation, but Skarr Bloodwrath was the big reveal here, and it was a very exciting one, for a multitude of reasons. Skarr is End Times canon, straight up. He was introduced first in End Times Book 5, Archaon, which was quite literally the last official army book or supplement in 8th edition, and by extension, in Warhammer Fantasy, period, before the world ended and Age of Sigmar sprinkled pixie dust all over its grave. He is as End Times gets, but his inclusion affirms something I've been saying for quite literally the last 7 years. It is entirely possible to add End Times characters and units without making the End Times narratives that people dislike the main focus of those expansions or DLCs. And that is probably what is going to happen here. Makes it even more clear that CA will delve into End Times content if they want stuff from that setting, and that Games Workshop can and will allow it when the time comes. But the Warhammer 3 isn't going to end with a Tsar Bomba black hole detonating in the bowels of Middenheim and consuming the planet. Wasn't just Skarr Bloodwrath that was confirmed here, though. They did everything but outright state that Skullreapers and Wrathmongers will be joining him. Now, I personally did not think we'd be seeing any of these dudes until an End Times expansion. In fact, I think in my last Rivers of Blood DLC video, I think I explicitly said I do not expect Skullreapers or Wrathmongers here. I thought they would wait till the End Times, but what I think happened here was they just looked at the Khorne army book and said, well, there is no Khorne army book, right? It's Demons of Chaos and Warriors of Chaos. And they're like, we don't have a lot to choose from here. Where do we pull from? Well, let's go to Games Workshop and see, hey, can we do some End Time stuff? Apparently, Games Workshop said yes. I expect they'll be saying yes a lot more as the series draws to a close. But hey, if the plan really is to do something including Thankwall, Nagash, and the Glotkin, as I have suspected there will be, it makes a lot of sense to get the Khornate additions from End Times out of the way early so they can focus on the big players in that big DLC, expansion, whatever you want to call it. Looking at Thrones of Decay, Doomseekers were probably our first major hint that Wrathmongers were on the agenda. They'll be using the same dual chain tech that the Stunties use, only these will be flails, not axes, wielded by lunatic murdersmiths of the Scaramore tribe. Skin tinted red, they are ripped, they are terrifying, they are going to be elite murder blenders that can just slice through infantry like a hot knife through butter. Essentially chosen ascended variants of the Skullreapers. They have endured the winnowing and pilgrimage of skulls, subjugated demons with their bare hands, forced them to do their will, and emerge from the brazen cage as something more than mortal. An absolutely murderous stat line in contrast to the elite Skullreapers, who will wield great weapons with Berserker Fury as a purely anti-armor unit. So, with Skullreapers, Wrathmongers, and Slaughter Brutes, Scylla Ingfengrim and Skarr Bloodwrath as legendary heroes, Khorne is already shaping up super nicely in this pack, with Skulltaker at the helm. Next, of course, we have the infamous Golgfag Maneater, who will become the very first mercenary faction in Immortal Empires. One of his main campaign mechanics will be Maneater contracts, which allow you to seek employment with other factions of your choosing. Once selected, you actually go to work for that faction, helping them accomplish their objectives and helping them to win their wars. So, for example, if Karl Franz hires you and is at war with Vlad and Sylvania, you would get specific objectives to say, take Castle Drakenhof, then gift that province to the Empire once taken. Accomplish enough missions like that, and you'll get a massive payday for helping Franz win his wars and bring his boys home early, and as you're a neutral party, a literal mercenary faction, you have the benefit of plausible deniability. You don't take diplomatic malices for those types of wars, as you're just fulfilling your contractual obligations. So once your contract is done, hey, you could kind of double-cross Franz and say, all right, well, I got my money from him and the Empire. Let's go help Vlad now. Or just move through his territory, and you wouldn't necessarily be in a bad diplomatic state with them. They also highlight the fuzzy, furry, and cuddly Yetis joining Thundertusks and Blood Vultures on the Ogre Kingdoms roster, and these will be more defensive, magical variants of Gorgers to an extent. Ice-imbued monstrous infantry from the deep recesses of the mountains, a bit more defensive in nature and debuff focused. With their aura of frost, they will soften up enemy battle lines so that bulls can hit even harder on the charge. And finally, we have the Greenskins and Gorbad Ironclaw, an orc warboss tactician that brings all flavors of orcs and goblins together into a single unified fighting force. One of his main campaign mechanics will be the plan. Experimenting with different army compositions and utilizing different units will lead to unique bonuses in campaign and battle that reflect that composition. So, for example, using goblin fodder with orc error boys will allow ammo replenishment in battle, as the chaff will be assigned pickup sticks duty and give the archers more volleys to loose. Send the goblins forward, pick up all the missed arrows, bring them back. If you use lots of wolf riders in your army, you might get a massive increase to campaign movement range and raiding income, or using lots of trolls might lead to massive bonuses to catch the replenishment rate. Those kinds of things. However you build your army, that is all going to be reflected on the campaign map and in battle with special unique bonuses that are tailored to that specific composition. What this does is encourage you to utilize as much of the roster as possible to get the fun stuff flowing. The Savage Orc Great Shaman is confirmed as a new Lord choice as well, which will populate the Top Knots and other Savage Orc tribes in the Badlands with proper leaders now. And Wurzag, the Great Green Prophet, well, he's gonna be moving. Move from the Badlands down to the Southlands jungles to pay homage to his origin story in 8th edition lore, and he'll be given a little nod to his connection between Gork and Mork and the other Savage Orc tribes of the area. Presumably, he'll be getting a few more love and touches there as well. So, a lot of reworks and content confirmed in this one. Pretty exciting stuff, but the end times is, of course, what really gets me horny here, because it opens up so much more potential as we move towards the ultimate finale for this trilogy. It is content we've talked about before. It is content that I expected anyway, but anytime we get confirmation of end time stuff, and this has not happened very often, if at all, during the course of this trilogy, well, it's a really good sign for the stuff that I truly want. Glotkin, Putrid Blight Kings, Pox Magus, Nagash, Morghast Archai and Harbingers, Dread Abyssals, Thankwall, Bone Ripper, Vermin Lord, Stormfiends, those kinds of things. There's some seriously cool stuff still waiting on the wings. If you get rid of some of the narrative BS, I think those will all make great additions to this trilogy by the end of it. Skarr Bloodwrath may very well be the harbinger for everything that is still to come.